We are live, sir.
All right, everybody. This is episode 44 of the Beef and Bitcoin podcast with your host, Brett and CH. Looks like we've had a lot of stuff happen over the last couple of weeks here. And, today in particular, we're going to be talking about Libra seems to have members dropping like flies recently, which I guess that was expected, but I didn't think it would happen so soon. And, it's pretty interesting the reasons why they are choosing to drop off. So we'll get into that. And also, it looks like our good friends at the Fed are trying to pump their bags and have been, looks like they're going to be buying T-bills for the foreseeable future into 2020. We'll talk a little bit about that, what that means for Bitcoin. But other than that, man, how you doing this week?
I'm doing good. As you said, there's a lot going on right now, and I think definitely the biggest thing is by far the whole Federal Reserve buying T-bills or whatever going on. We'll discuss that in a second here because the Facebook Libra thing it's just too easy for us to rip apart. And so basically, I guess there's a letter sent from two U.S. senators, from Brian Schatz, if I said that right, and Sherrod Brown, two United States senators, to Mr. Patrick Collision, co-founder and chief executive officer of Stripe Incorporated. And I'm just going to read the whole letter. It's about a page and just over a page long. And it basically starts with, "Dear Mr. Collision, we write to share our deep concerns about Facebook's Libra cryptocurrency project and the formation of the Libra Association. We are concerned because the key questions remain unanswered about the risk of the project posed to the consumer, regulated financial institutions, and the global financial system. We urge you to carefully consider how your company will manage these risks before proceeding, given that Facebook has not yet demonstrated to Congress, financial regulators, and perhaps not even to your companies that it is willing to take these risks seriously. Public reporting suggests that potential Libra Association members companies have struggled to get sufficient details from Facebook and about the management of the significant risks that Libra may pose. Even though Facebook is driving force behind Libra and offers the largest user base for the new cryptocurrency, the company has not provided a clear path for how it will prevent the Libra from facilitating criminal and terrorist financing, destabilizing the global financial system, and interfering with monetary policy, or exposing consumers to risk currently limited to accredited investors. In fact, in response to questions from Congress about the potential risks posed by Libra, Facebook deflects the responsibility of addressing these risks to potential Libra Association members, such as your companies, as well as other participants in the payment ecosystem. Facebook is currently struggling to tackle massive issues such as privacy violations, disinformation, election interference, discrimination, and fraud, and it has not demonstrated an ability to bring those failures under control. You should be concerned that any weakness in Facebook's risk management will become weaknesses in your systems that you may not be able to effectively mitigate. These risks are not hypothetical. The New York Times recently reported a proliferation of online child sexual abuse due in part to large tech platforms like Facebook. In fact, 12 million of the 18.4 million reports of child sexual abuse photos and videos around the world last year were attributed to Facebook's Messenger. It is chilling to think what would happen if Facebook combined encrypted messaging with embedded anonymous global payments via Libra. Your company should be extremely cautious about moving ahead with a project that will foreseeably fuel the growth in criminal activity. Facebook appears to want the benefits of engaging in financial activities without the responsibility of being regulated as a financial service company. Facebook is attempting to accomplish that objective by shifting the risk and the need to design new compliance regimes onto regular members of the Libra Association like your companies. If you take this on, you can expect a high level of scrutiny from regulators not only on Libra-related payment activities, but on all your payment activities. We urge you to proceed with caution until Facebook is able to provide real answers to you, Congress, and financial regulators about how it will manage various and significant risks posed by Libra. We also urge you to consider Facebook's inability to manage current risk from its core business lines when making a decision about whether to proceed with Libra.
Yeah. So thanks for reading that. I think it's good to actually sit and read something like that. It was short enough, and not to just click on the headline and read, oh, people dropping out of Libra's, the Libra project. Now you know exactly what the members of Libra received, and then you can sit and think about why exactly they are deciding to bail.
Yeah.
And I think that like that second to last paragraph pretty much says exactly. They pretty much say we're going to put you under a microscope unless you bail. That's really what it was saying. Not just you need the KYC AML requirements for Libra specific payments or movement of value or money, but all dealings that you do now will come under scrutiny. So, they mentioned a couple of your typical buzzwords. Regulation, compliance, money laundering, criminal activity, child pornography, sex trafficking. They throw in all those terrible things that would emotionally make you want to, say, how could you participate in such a thing when, the majority of those crimes are committed with US dollars specifically. So, to say that this increases that activity is a bit of a stretch. But it's hard because you listen to that or you read that, and I can't blame Stripe, PayPal, eBay, or any of them for bailing. Like, it's going to fuck with their business.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. It's like, do you want to be associated with this? Like, and as you said, a lot of things happen illegally in U.S. dollars. We all know that, but that is, that is the thing with cash. It's it's fungible, and that's why we see this huge push with central banks, especially for cashless society. And it's the fungibility, as we talk about. They want to know where payments are going, who's paying for what, and it's a scary thought. We keep thinking like we're joking about we're living in 1984, but we've already seen it. We're living in a time where people get banned off social media platforms for thoughts, whether right or wrong. So it's in here now. We're seeing it with money, and we've seen it with PayPal. We've seen it with a Patreon, for example. A lot of these companies just decide to ban people off platforms, and it's pretty crazy. Like, didn't Julian Assange get, was it Visa, Mastercard, PayPal, pretty much everything?
Yep.
And he didn't do anything. All he did was publish stuff. He never, stole anything. He just published it, and it makes for interesting times. And we the whole whistleblower thing going on right now. I know it's a little topic, but it just brings back how many whistleblowers were there in the past, few decades, whether under Bush or Obama administration, that never got any daylight, by the mainstream media. None. They're buried away. So it's just, and now all of a sudden the media jumps to protect a whistleblower. So it just tells you, who's, behind this really.
Right. I mean, it's tough with this stuff. And I think Libra, it's funny because I'm starting to have like a little bit of a change of heart. I think it's a net positive for Bitcoin for two reasons. One, because if it comes to fruition, which I don't think it will, it would be a great on-ramp for Bitcoin. But two, you're watching in real time how centralized solutions to digital money don't end up working, right? People are already backing off and bailing from this, and it hasn't even launched yet. And Satoshi kind of said this. He said, I hope that it's, I'm paraphrasing, but I hope that it's the centralization is obvious to everybody that was the main problem all along. So you're going to see these centralized solutions continue to fail, and everybody's going to get to learn and see why they fail. And it all of a sudden, something like Bitcoin starts to make more sense. He's like, it's like, how do you can't, there's no one to call, or there's no one to send a letter to say, you guys need to stop what you're doing now, or don't participate. It's impossible. You can't do that. You can make it illegal and ban it. That, that's a strategy. But it's not like you can write Satoshi a letter and tell him to chill. And I think that's just a good, valuable lesson for everybody to take away from Libra and Facebook's Libra stablecoin, shitcoin.
A stable shitcoin.
Yeah, my guess is it would be anything but stable. But what do I know?
Yeah. Okay, so we only went up 5 billion from. Remember last time we were looking at it, we were at 3,945.
Yeah.
The most updated, which is Wednesday, October 9th, puts us at 3,949. So we're only up 5 billion, thankfully, in monetary. And the Fed balance sheet is what I'm looking at right now. Remember from last episode?
Yep.
So
I remember.
And today is October 13th, so it's a few days lagging behind, but not that much now.
It'll be interesting to see what that looks like after next week, and I guess that's a good a good time to talk about.
Yeah, no, because it's gonna next week, right? It's gonna start pumping 60 billion.
Yeah, why don't we jump into that? So, the Federal Reserve has announced that it will be buying 60 billion worth of Treasury bills per month, and quote, to improve its control over the benchmark interest rate and use it to guide monetary policy. This is expected to start, either next week or sometime within the next 30 days, and continue to the second quarter of 2020. I'm assuming that's through the second quarter of 2020, and also that they can change the pace and duration of those purchases. So they can either up that from 60 billion to something else, and they can extend those purchases as long as they want. And when you hear things like that, you can also start to think indefinitely, right? You're going to keep pumping or injecting credit into the economy on an ongoing basis, which is a little scary. And nobody really seems to have said anything or expressed any concern, especially since 60 billion is a lot, right? I saw somebody tweet and say that I think like the entire defense budget of the U.S. military is like 600 billion annually. So on a monthly basis, 60 billion, that's more than what they spend on the military budget on a monthly basis. So I guess when you kind of put it in those terms, it's like, oh shit, that seems like a lot. And this comes after having to inject more liquidity into the market for the overnight repos. And I know we haven't talked about that yet. We're planning on doing an episode to talk about that a little bit more in depth, but this isn't all of a sudden, or I guess it is, but now it seems like it's been a long time coming, and this is kind of obvious. So I don't know. Would you consider this, the 60 billion per month purchase of T-bills, QE?
It is QE. There's nothing. I mean, so I've been diddling around with the chart here, but the whole purpose of QE, the whole purpose of this, when we got to 4.5 billion, stopped or 4.5 trillion, excuse me, geez, and we started doing quantitative tightening. The whole purpose was for the Fed to unwind its balance sheet to the pre-2008, which was like 880 billion. And of course, that has changed. I zoomed in earlier if you're watching, but basically we bombed out at 3.759 trillion. And as of now, we're at 3.949, really just $3.95 trillion, basically. That's where we're at. So we've jumped basically 300 billion in the course of just over about 6 weeks. That's kind of a big deal. That's a lot of money. I don't think people realize how much that can stimulate, asset markets in terms of liquidity. But I was just looking here because they always talk about when they did the original quantitative easing, when the market went from basically 898 billion to 2.2 trillion in the span of the Fed's balance sheet, literally in the span of a month or 2 months, really, from the end of August basically to the early November. So just under 2 months. I mean, that's incredible. If you could see it online, I know you can see it CH. It's just vertical.
Yeah, it's insane.
Um,
It looks like it's overnight all of a
yeah, I
sudden.
mean, and we just did 300 billion here. I mean, something's. I've been seeing there's the guy. You don't follow him on Twitter. I don't know if you follow him on Twitter, but Hipster Trader. He posted like it's almost like the Fed, like retweeted CNBC's talk about like the repo market. It's almost like the Fed doesn't want us to know something's going on, and I think that there has to something's going on. Something is because the overnight repo rate shot to 10%. Someone's toxic in the system, and someone was also tweeting, is it Deutsche Bank? Who is it?
Right, right, right.
Something's going on right now. There's no other reason they would be doing this if things were fine. And that's the real question. I mean, the fact that this is going on right now is like, to me, is like, oh shit, something really is going to happen because people think that's just going to save the market, but it didn't. So when this happened in 2008 here, I'm just going to pull up the Dow Jones. That was so when they initially did that in the start of August, the Dow Jones was 11,400, something like that, roughly, start September, and it continued to fall down to 6,499. So it basically fell another 45% or so in the span of a couple months. And the quantitative, so adding basically over $1.5 trillion almost, didn't do shit. It fell 43% basically. So it quantitative tightening or quantitative easing, excuse me, does not make the markets go up, which was proven right there in 2009 or 2008 and 2009 really. And I think we'll see the same thing. I mean, I don't see any positive to what's going on right now. Like some people think the Fed's going to pump us to sky high, but I think this is just uh, like a very scary thought, or not scary thought, but a very ominous sign. When you think about WeWork's going from 47 billion to like what $1 billion now or something, and then you think about every IPO. Literally every IPO has been shit this year. I mean, I can pull up every IPO chart and it's all dog shit. Uber down, Lyft down. Chewy, the fucking pets.com of 2019 down. I mean, there's even more. Beyond Meat down. Like, I can keep going. Like, there's so many.
Yeah, I think to bring that back to Bitcoin and sound money, you see these things as a symptom, I think, of easy money and easy credit and cheap credit, because a lot of these the IPO process of some of these companies is that's the exit, right? They haven't made any money. They don't foresee making any money anytime soon. So in other words, somebody needs to pay for this business to keep operating because the business can't pay its operational costs. So somebody else needs to bear those. And then once you've listed publicly, then you can dump those shares and get yourself out of that position. All the people who've been holding it for so many years as the company has been being built, then they finally get their exit. And these types of things only really seem to happen. The last bubble and the tech bubble in 2001, you saw like a pets.com being crazy valued, and that bubble went deep into the trillions. So I don't think we're even close to that yet, but maybe this is like just partially a sign of, I can't believe businesses could not be profitable for so long, and then all of a sudden you'd think maybe they will out of just luck or something. Like it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and like I see some people posting now that maybe like this whole bull market will continue to 2021 or something, or through Trump's election, and it's like I don't know, man. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't see it. I think there's just so much. Like I think Hong Kong's a perfect example of what's going on. I think you can't ignore what's been going on in Paris for last year. You can't ignore what's going on in the Middle East now, especially with Syria, Turkey. That's another, and it's a hot war, and there's just so many different little things going on right now. Like, how much longer can these things be ignored by markets? Everything's
Right.
mispriced, as we always talk about.
Right,
Risk is
right.
completely mispriced. Yields are at all-time lows, and people are getting paid nothing to hold things that really aren't safe. So
No, I think that's a good point. And I would hope that we see less of this kind of activity if we were on a sound money standard. Nobody would be using actual real money to pay for these types of businesses or these things to happen. It would just be ridiculous. Nobody would ever do that. Nobody would give up good money for that. But there's a Fed open market committee that's scheduled for the end of the month, so end of October. What do you think? You think they're going to cut rates for the third time this year?
They have to. There's no other choice. They over tightened, and I've listened to. I'm not that smart, but I've listened to enough smart people talk about it now about the over tightening,
Yep.
and raising rates. So basically, what happened was, think about it. So for basically from 2014, when the balance sheet peaked around 4.5 trillion, so mid 2014, through the end of 2017, the balance sheet was at 4.5 trillion roughly, around there. Give or take 50 to 100 billion. It stayed there. Then quantitative tightening started at the beginning of 2018, along with the rates have been raising since end of 2015. We went from 25 basis to 50, and it had been a steady 25 BPS raise every however many months, and basically to get us to whatever we got to, like at the end of 2018 where we hit 2.5% or whatever it was, 2.25, that range. And as we've seen, quantitative tightening now has been going on this whole time. So the Fed balance sheet went from 4.5 trillion all the way down to the low, as I said, was 3.79. So basically almost $1 trillion was sucked to the market, 850 billion or whatever you want to say. And that's a big deal. That's a lot of money, and when liquidity is short, markets go down. When there's abundant liquidity, market goes up. And so I think the Fed has now realized we fucked up. And as I've said, I just think they're going to have no choice but to cut. And they're going to keep, as they've said already, they're going to add 60 billion a month, right? And however much 60 billion a month is what they're saying, but I bet it's going to be more. I doubt it'll be. Think about it. We did a 300 billion in basically 6 weeks. I think it's going to be more.
Yeah, that's on top of the injection into the repo markets too.
Yeah. Oh God.
You know what I mean? That was what, 75 million already or more? Or 75 billion, I mean. Yeah. I mean, it's a shitload.
Yeah.
I mean, I try to sit and think, about, what does this mean for Bitcoin? And I try to tie it back to, okay, well, this is kind of the reason that Bitcoin exists, right? You cap the supply, you automate the distribution of the money, and that's kind of it. Nobody else can influence it. Like it's set in stone. It's done. It's good to go. And either it works or it doesn't. Right? There's not going to be anybody to blame. Whereas when you think about the current monetary system, if you subscribe to more of the Austrian school of economics, you'd say, well, the reason that we have the boom bust cycle to begin with is because of the manipulation of the interest rate. And I believe that to be a correct analysis of why the boom and bust cycle happens. So if you assume that that's true, I would also assume that under a sound money standard or monetary system, you would have less boom and bust cycles that would maybe only come about from some sort of like extension of credit that would be beyond what is voluntarily saved, right? So, in those weird circumstances, but it's just too easy for that to happen right now with the way the monetary system works. I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think the malinvestment continues now, and because of the expansion of the balance sheet again? And what do you think? How do you think we'd operate on more of a sound money standard?
I don't know. I think people are pretty scared right now. It seems like the speculation, and I think the perfect example is the WeWork IPO. I think speculation right now is really down, just across the board. I think people are worried. I mean, think about for how long this has been going on. The markets, we technically peaked. If you look at the New York, I'll pull it up just so you can see it too. It's New York NYA, so New York Composite, which is the largest index, broadest stock market index. That peaked in January of 2018. So we've been below that the whole time. I know everyone looks at the Dow Jones going higher or whatever, but that big block of the market, which is like the largest, most broad cap, has peaked a while ago. So no new highs for, I'm just going to measure the time because I'm curious now. It's basically 629 days, it says. So it's been a while. So it's over 600 days. There hasn't been a new high.
And it's been a choppy 2 years.
It's been a very choppy 2 years. And one would say if you looked at the chart and you weren't able to see the future and you looked in December of 2018, you would have thought that was it.
Right. No, I know. I did think that was it.
I thought it was it too. I was like, well, 2019 is going to be just an ass year in terms of just everything's going to end nothing, and it didn't. It didn't happen. I was wrong. But it's just, and that was obviously the Fed flip stance and the China pumped $1 trillion in the market. But like, things like there's just so many like black swans floating out there. It's just like how's Deutsche Bank doing right now? Let's see their chart. Can't be too hot. They're not at all time lows though. That's the only upside. They're not at like $6 now. They're at $7.46, down from 140. It's okay. Like how do people like stay at that company? Like I know the executives, they had a huge high return rate, but it's like it's just been a dying company, for years, never to bounce.
Yeah, I don't know. It wouldn't be my thing.
I don't know. I think we're close. I keep saying that, but I don't know. Even the close Friday, this is a SPY chart, the ETF, man. It just doesn't look too hot to me. It's so ominous. It's so ominous. There's just a nice gap below it. I mean, like when you look, like when you zoom in, the day was hilarious. Flash crash in the middle of the day, back up to the highs, and then dump in the last 30 minutes. And the volume at the end too was incredible. It was the end of the week too, but still. I think markets are calling bullshit on all this whole trade deal stuff and everything now. Who knows?
Yeah. No, I think that's a good analysis. I mean, you can't assume things go on forever and everything's all fine and dandy. And I think different people see different things and start to come to similar conclusions based on whatever industry they're in. Like I work in the insurance industry and we just had layoffs. Insurance industry never has layoffs. And some of these companies didn't even have layoffs in 2008. And like that was really bad. So everybody has a different assessment. Maybe people who are interested in real estate and they're looking at San Fran real estate and they're starting to see prices start coming down monthly, right? Everybody has a different view of why things are going the way they are. And I don't think it's a surprise either that you see Raul videos pumping on YouTube.
His videos are phenomenal.
You know what I mean? Like
great.
there's a large group of individuals who all are approaching whatever's going on right now differently. You have, the Bitcoin people, you have the global macro people, you have, then you have like retail industry who are trying to cut back. It's like, it's a lot of different signs all pointing in a similar direction of uncertainty, I guess is the only way you can put it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It seems like a lot of smart people are like, what's going on here?
Right.
And they're as you've said, they're different industries. Some come from macro, some come from obviously the crypto side, the Bitcoin niche, and then you have just other that are, market guys, and they're all like, something's wrong.
Right.
I mean, the Friday close was bananas. I mean, it was, so that gets me wondering what happens Monday.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna find out.
And somebody said something on Twitter I saw just a second ago about that futures didn't respond to Trump's tweet about a big deal or something. If they're even open. They're up. We were up 7.75% on the S&P E-mini futures, or 0.26% now.
Wow.
There we go. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what tomorrow brings, right?
Here's the thing. It doesn't matter because, like, China could say something at 7 a.m. tomorrow, and you go down. Like, I've seen, like, when you see, like, when you look at you zoom in and you see, like, the market go down, like, 8 points in a 1 minute stick or something ridiculous, and you're like, wow, that's just billions in wealth just vanishing in seconds. Like, it's insane. With the headlines really do get these things crazy.
Oh yeah.
I can never go back to being a normal person.
No,
I've been ruined.
You can't. I know.
It's terrible.
It is frustrating.
But it is. Like, I can't. Normal things don't excite me anymore.
Yeah.
Like, people are talking about football and stuff. And I'm like, this isn't exciting.
No, I know. Yeah, trillions of dollars are on the line. I can't believe that's what you're worried about. I feel like that's how I think about everything. Like,
exactly.
Man,
I'm just like,
I can't believe you guys aren't excited about what's happening. It's like, there's a new. I don't know. Everybody's got to do their own thing.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't want everybody who's like us ripping through this stuff, like, stressing out about.
No.
All
panic.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Maybe it's better that we're the only two assholes who are worried about this. Whatever.
Oh man. I'm just curious. I'm gonna wake up tomorrow morning and I'm gonna open it up and it's gonna be like, we're gonna be down a lot. Like, what's the deal here?
I don't know. We're gonna find out in
12 hours.
Another 12 to 18 hours. Yeah.
Shit.
What do you think? Is that a good way to wrap it up?
We can wrap this guy up right here.
Yeah.
31 minutes is perfect.
Yeah, this is a good episode. 2 quick topics here. This is episode 44. Thanks for checking out this episode. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Leave us a comment and a review on Apple Podcasts if you have the time. Follow us on Spotify. Share this with your friends. Anybody who is looking to get into the Bitcoin space, wants to learn a little bit more. Hopefully this is a nice pod for them to quickly check out. Thanks for checking out this episode.